Welcome back to Clearly Becoming, a podcast that aims to support and empower ambitious individuals by providing some evidence-backed insights and also just having honest conversations as we all navigate this chaotic career journey together. And remember that you can be ambitious and confused at the same time. And that is exactly why I wanted to bring my guest on today. And her name is Ashleigh and she has worked from PR at Emerge to a freelance journalist who has written and published in Marie Claire, Days, Stylist, Condé Nast, all of those big media outlets. And she's also co-founded London's most inclusive running club called Sunny's Run Club, and recently has founded a business called Solo, which enables people to network professionally and personally. And this is proof that you don't have to stick to one thing. You can have multiple interests, multiple passions, and do them all. So let's get into it with Ash. And I think one thing that people might want to know about is how to pitch. And so you mentioned that you have like a pitch email, that elevator pitch. So how do you construct that in a practical way? Say you were giving a pitch to, I don't know, do you know Farmer J, like the food business?
Hilariously, I used to represent them as a PR. They used to be one of my clients, yes. Okay, so, I mean, Sunny's did work with Farmer J, so we have done that.
Perfect.
I'll give a good example, just so that it's clear. I don't work at Emerge anymore, and I'm not in PR anymore. I'm a full-time journalist. Because I have to pitch as a freelance journalist all the time to editors, because that's how I get my stories commissioned. And it is just the same model as pitching to a brand. So I'd say that it's kind of like you're making a cake. There's a recipe ingredient to it. The first most important thing is a strong, eye-catching subject line. That's the first thing they're going to see in their inbox. What you have to remember is that in the media particularly, but also in brand side, inboxes are so busy. So you need to be concise in what you're saying. It needs to summarize what you want, but it should also be interesting. So for example, my subject line when I was applying to work at Emerge was proposal to hustle. I think the other way that you can do it, and what I often use when I'm sort of doing something, for example, say it was Sunny's cross Farmer J, I would put that in the subject line, because then it just like proves that it's personal. This isn't a blasted out email. This is Sunny Runners cross Farmer J. There is something real connective there. So for collaborations, I would always put the two names in a subject line. Then I think the kind of thing to think about is, right, this pitch needs to be an unselfish pitch. I'm not writing this to inflate my own ego. What I'm doing is to serve, giving the information over in the most compelling, emotionally grabbing way as I can, but that places the person that's going to be reading it front and center. No pitch email should be longer than 2 to 3 short paragraphs, really. And the first thing should be kind of who you are, introduce yourself quickly, and like why the email exists, what the purpose of it is. Then I would sort of go with what you want. So, so this is who we are, this is what we want. And then I would say the last bit is, what value can you provide? Whether it's we will deliver social deliverables, or whether it's we have a community of over 500 people in our WhatsApp group, or we have this many followers on social media. I think that demonstrating the value and what's in it for them is a really core part. If you want to then add more kind of color and detail, I would always say to link to social media. And then if you want to create kind of like a 1 to 2 pager sort of like CV or case study or brand deck, you can just attach that. And then if they are interested and they want to read further, you've got all the kind of like detail and stuff in there. But I think brevity is key, clarity is key, and not being kind of ashamed of what it is that you want. But I say that in the same breath of like, definitely don't send an email that's just like, hi, I'd like some free stuff, because like that's like crap. Like I hate it when I get emails that are just kind of like, hi, can you do this for me? And it's like, I don't know you, why would I? You need to like, it needs to be give and take, you know?
Yeah, and time is currency. So I think that's the most important thing when you're constructing these emails, like you said, is the clarity and the concision. I'm a business student, so I study at King's College London, and so that's where my mindset always goes to.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the agenda setting theory that I was taught. The media sets the agenda for what people perceive as important, and they do it through priming and framing. And so the headlines is framing it in a way that adds value to them and also establishes what you can bring them. And then also the priming on what are you showing them? What are the key things that you value? What can you bring to them? The socials, whatever it is to show that this is what you're going to perceive me as, and this is how
Yeah.
I can bring value. Is just so important.
I think it's just one thing to say is like,
Mm.
I think this does apply to brand pictures. I use it more in like journalism, but I think it's relevant if you were doing a collaboration or a business email too. The wider relevance of why now. That was the one thing I didn't mention, but it is something that often goes in my pitches. So for example, I will talk about why community is so necessary right now, like why, talking about the loneliness epidemic, talking about the fact that like influencer culture is kind of like a bit false in a lot of ways, and actually what we're really needing is this genuine connection and community, and like reaching out to those people and working with those people is really valuable and important. So I think adding that kind of wider cultural relevance that exists outside of the partnership, so that a business can see why strategically it makes sense for them, why, like, why is that a good image for them, is also important.
And I know that you have another company as well called
Yeah.
Sola, and it
Yeah.
helps bridge together just personal and professional relationships. Normally, we keep those worlds separate in a way. And so, how did you find the idea to bridge both the personal and professional? And how do you think they can actually work together in tandem?
Yeah, that's such a good question. God, you ask good questions. Well, it's okay. So Solar is very baby right now, but it's designed to be, the idea is that it will be a solar system for women. Because I think if you kind of come back to the topic of wellness traditionally has been something that we've concentrated on very much in our personal lives. It's our physical health, it's our mental health, it's going to the gym, it's drinking our matches, it's all of this stuff. But we don't think about like our financial well-being and our professional well-being, and how being financially literate and financially, safe is a key pillar of wellness. And
Yeah.
we get that through our professional lives. Yet as women, we feel worried to talk about money. We feel like we can't talk about ambition. And where men would sit comfortably around a table and have all of those conversations, we talk about Pilates and we talk about dating and we talk about all this stuff. And it's kind of like, it's not really very like cool to talk about ambition and all of that area, but it is totally a part of who we are, and wellness is our whole self. And I think there wasn't really a space that I was seeing to facilitate those conversations. I felt like conversations about careers, they're quite gate kept. You kind of come out of school and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about taxes, or I don't know about the financial industry, or I don't know anything about women's health, or all of these answers that you don't have. And you can kind of only access them through a podcast or a radio show or a TV program. You don't get the opportunity to sit around a table with people. And it is something that I do get the opportunity to do as a journalist. There's always media events. We always get access to these wonderful experts. And through that, I've met so many interesting and amazing, interested women who aren't just experts, they're just curious about the world, and they have special knowledge in some random field. And I was like, actually, how cool if all of this knowledge could be pooled around a table, and
Mhm.
actually you have a space where it's totally acceptable to talk about all of those things, and you can gain knowledge in areas that you had no idea about. And it's almost creating that village mindset of knowledge sharing that's not based on how much money you have or how much privilege you have. It's just actually based on your own innate curiosity and your willingness to go and put yourself out there at a table where you don't know anyone. So that's kind of the starting point for it. So it's starting with supper clubs, but eventually I really want to grow this into an entire ecosystem. I want there to be so many mediums that people can contribute, so that it almost becomes like a contributor led magazine that,
Mm.
people could pen articles on topics they know about, or they could do a podcast episode if they prefer to speak it, or, there's so many ways that people can contribute and basically just become this massive melting pot of information that I feel is the thing we miss, because it's kind of taboo to talk about some of these things. Basically, it's removing taboo from any topics. Nothing's off the cards.
Yeah, and it's like kind of creating a safe space for people just to, even if they aren't as knowledgeable, to talk about it, or if they are, to share what they have to say. It's like you go to networking events at career fairs and whatever, and it feels like you have to have a load of experience
Hmm.
to share,
Hmm.
or you're just intimidated by these people who have had massive careers and things like that. But just having that ability to go into a safe space and just talk, build your network, and in whatever ways that means. And
Hmm.
just to learn, I think is something that we need more of in our
Yeah,
society.
totally. I think you're so spot on of like, it's coming back to the kind of things of Sunny's of like, you go to these networking events and stuff, but everything feels a bit cold, it feels a bit sterile. It doesn't really feel welcoming, and like you should really have the space to ask. You don't want to look stupid, all of this stuff. And I think it's kind of like, screw all that. Like, this is like you said, a safe space for you, and it's so okay to say you don't know. I think that's such a like freeing thing to be able to safely say without any shame, I don't know about that, teach me. And like, at school you're supposed to learn, and then we get to adulthood and it's like, well, you should know. And you're like, I don't know. And like, if you don't know, you're like, I just will leave that thing and I won't touch it. And like, the fact that I don't know about it means that I'll never know about it. And it's like, no, you can find out.
And I think we need to be more curious as humans and just
Yeah.
put ourselves in uncomfortable positions as well, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what creates growth. And I know you wrote an article about friction maxing, and I think I didn't have a term for it, but that is exactly what I feel like I try to do in my life every single day is to do something that takes just a little bit more effort, whether that's taking the stairs instead of the lift or just walking that extra 10 minutes, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be hard, but that is something that I think we've lost in just the age of everything becoming more accessible, easy, technology, social media, the dopamine hits, the doom scrolling, whatever it is. It's like we need to remember to put in the effort to do.
It is essential. I think if that is like the most important thing that I have realized and discovered, is that your brain, though not a muscle, kind of works like a muscle. And
Mhm.
if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Like, if you take the frictionless route, and I think your example of taking the stairs rather than like the lift is an amazing and actually spot on microcosmic example, because whenever I take an escalator in London, I always walk up the escalator. And I know it's
Mhm.
so minor, but I'm just like, this embodies who I am to me. I am the person that walks up the escalator. And I think if you can just like take that mindset into every area of your life, you'll go so far, because these tiny things, they just like notch you up each time, and you just suddenly open doors that you never ever thought would exist. But yeah, I encourage everyone to go and read. So there's an original article written called "In 2026 We Are Friction Maxing" in The
Mhm.
Cut, by Catherine Jezza Morton. It's exactly about this, about the fact that the more that we just allow technology to give us escapism from any sense of effort or inconvenience, we lose attention span, we lose critical thinking ability, we lose emotional intelligence. And there is research to show that this actually happens. Like, it's real. And it's such a sad thing to lose. And you lose kind of a sense of like life satisfaction, because you didn't do anything. You just let a thing do it, and then you just got the product that came out at the other end, and you become this kind of like passive person in your own life. Whereas I think adding friction, it's what connects us to other people. Like, uncomfortable topics, if something feels uncomfortable, it's probably because there's something really valuable there. Like, whether it's that it's something that you don't understand, or that you find difficult, or emotion that you're struggling with, or whatever it is, there's so much like beauty that comes from the other side of like that kind of tussle, even if it's a disagreement with someone. That's why debate is so interesting. Like, it's growth happens with friction, not with an easy seamless path.
I absolutely agree. Okay, I want to go into kind of my rapid fire questions, the
Okay, girl.
clarity round. And so just say like the first thought on your mind, and yeah, no stress.
Okay.
So, what is the last thing that you were obsessed with, like you Googled at midnight?
Okay, with the last thing I was obsessed with. Well, okay, I'm deep down a therapy journey at the moment. I've just
Okay.
started therapy, so I'm very much like in my like, ooh, like, oh God. So I'm very, very interested in kind of the brain and how it works. So I was very much looking into the idea of attachment and how that forms. So I went down a like huge, huge, huge rabbit hole of kind of the impact of childhood attachments on our adult desires and like, yeah, um connections with relationships.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in that that journey myself.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so true. Yeah, I think I read this book called, I think it's just called The Attached or something
Yeah,
like that.
attached. Yeah, yeah,
That's a very good, yeah, it's a good book. And it just
yeah.
shows up in all aspects of your life. You
I
always think
know.
just relationships, like romantic relationships, but it's really
Mm-mm.
just it's
Everywhere.
business. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And therapy's great. I definitely recommend it.
Hard though, very hard.
Oh, yeah. And then second is, what is an advice that you delete from the internet that you think is just not good?
Bad advice?
Bad advice, yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know. Bad advice. Stick to what you know. I think that's terrible advice. Why would you ever do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. What more could you say with that?
Yeah, that's it.
What is one thing you had to unlearn to level up?
I think it comes back to the rejection thing. That I had to unlearn that I took rejection as personal. Basically, my feeling was rejection is a rejection of me. And to level up, I had to learn that it's not about you.
What is your current non-negotiable?
Current non-negotiable, outside every single day. It
Mhm.
sounds basic, but I'm a horrendous person if I don't go outside every day.
No, yeah, I agree. And we need it,
Yeah,
especially when it's sunny. You
yeah.
just, you just,
And even when it's not, even when it's not, when it's raining, that's when you need to go outside too.
that's true. I actually prefer taking like a walk during the rain
Yeah,
than the tube in the rain, just
yeah,
because it's so
yeah, yeah,
crowded down there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
take advantage of just the outside and the fresh air and whatever it is, because vitamin D can come through the clouds too.
yeah, for sure.
And then what is one thing you're reading or listening to? Because I know you like podcasts as well and doing.
So I am learning at the moment a lot about the female body and body literacy. It's a topic I'm super, super, super passionate about. Currently, I was just reading Fertility, which is a female reproductive health business. They do fertility testing, but they're about so much more than fertility. They're about female reproductive health entirely. They have just published their 2026 research report, which is showing a lot of information about the lack of research in women's health, kind of the issues that are being faced, and also teaches women a lot about the symptoms that they ignore. So I would encourage everybody to read that report, because as a woman, you need to know A, what you're facing, but B, the symptoms that you're probably minimizing. And B, men need to read it because they need to understand women's bodies as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think just having more awareness over just who you are and what this does for you is
What
just
your
so
amazing body is
important.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and we
like,
forget that.
so much so. And also, like, female menstrual pain in particular has been so normalized that we're like,
Mm,
oh, that's being a woman, that's what I'm supposed to deal with every single month. No, like, there's a lot of pain that is like completely abnormal and a sign of a reproductive health condition that we just sort of trivialize, and we're like, oh, we should just deal with that. And actually you could get so much help for it, but the medical professionals don't know. And if you can advocate for yourself because you do know, then that's amazing. Like, fatigue is one of the biggest symptoms that goes unnoticed, but it can be debilitating and it affects your work, it affects everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think health is the foundation for everything. I mean, if you
truly.
don't have that, you don't have anything.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
having that awareness is great.
for real, for
And
real.
then I guess the one thing is, who are you clearly becoming right now?
Who am I becoming? I am becoming a person who trusts herself, I think. I've done a lot of the pushing myself, a lot of the like growth and that element of things. And now I'm learning to embody the person that I have built, I think, and like to fully own and trust that she's doing the right thing.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I love that. I think self-trust is such a ongoing journey,
Yeah.
and we know who we are. We just need to remind ourselves
Yeah. Yeah. And sink into it.
and sink into it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this. I really
Uh,
appreciated this conversation, and we'll definitely continue to talk because I think we have a lot of
sure.
things to talk about.
Yeah, and thank you, honestly, like, thank you for doing this podcast. And like,
Of
you're an
course.
amazing podcast host. Like, the flow of conversation was unreal. Like, kudos to you, girl. This is unreal.
Thank you. I opened this podcast about talking about how I wasn't sure I'd fully shaken the belief that if I didn't have something figured out, then I was behind. But what this conversation brings is that you don't have to have it all figured out. And what Ash proved to us is that not knowing isn't delay, it's the work. It's okay to have undirected ambition, is what she called it. And I think that's just beautiful. So, if you have a pitch that you've been sitting on, or if you have an application or a CV that you haven't sent out, send it out this week, because confidence isn't a feeling, it's an experience presented by the things that you have done. And so you need to just start. You need to take action in order to grow that confidence, in order to gain that sense of self and trust yourself and trust your abilities that you can do this. And remember, the good things always take a little bit of effort. And also comment down below on who you're clearly becoming, because remember, you can be ambitious and confused at the same time. And as humans, we're always evolving. And so we can be clearly becoming something this week and something entirely different the next. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Definitely comment below if you resonated with this. Share it with somebody who's feeling like they don't know what they want, or that maybe they want to pursue a non-linear career path. This is definitely a good conversation to just gain a little bit more knowledge about that. And yeah, thank you so much again for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.